checking and balancing and limiting each other's strength, that's the best secret to achieving liberty. Now, what are the two strategic insights that make an interstate compact so powerful? An interstate compact is not a terribly complicated idea. It's provided for expressly in the Constitution. It is an agreement, a contractual agreement between two or more states. There are, as Mario mentioned, some 200 interstate compacts currently in effect. The potent strategic difference. Right now we see states all over the country that are railing against Obamacare and many other things, that are frustrated. And you see some state legislatures that are passing bills saying, we will not abide by Obamacare. And I think those bills are a great thing. I mean, they're a great thing as long as we understand what they are. They're a great thing because they're a political statement. They're a great thing because they're a manifestation of the will of the people not to cede power and authority to federal government. But they're not a great thing because as a legal matter, they're going to stop Obamacare. As a legal matter, every court in this country will take a state law that says our citizens will not abide by Obamacare, a federal law that says, oh yes, they will, and 100% of the time, the courts in this country will enforce the federal law over the state law under the Supremacy Clause. So, in the state legislatures, none of us should pass bills fighting Obamacare on the belief that this will somehow show up in court and enable a citizen to escape the mandate of the federal law. Well, what is it that makes an interstate compact so powerful? What makes it so powerful is the Constitution provides if two or more states adopt a compact and Congress consents, that compact has the status of federal law. That's incredibly potent. Let me repeat that. Each of you in this room has the ability to pass federal law that can trump any other federal law. This is something that heretofore has not been exploited even a fraction of where it could be. The general rule on federal laws, if Congress passes one statute, it passes a second statute. The second statute trumps the first statute. The later in time trumps the earlier in time. An interstate compact stands on the identical footing, which means it is the only mechanism, short of a constitutional amendment, that is available to everyone in this room to sit down and craft something that can supersede any federal statute in the United States Code. It can supersede Obamacare. It can supersede environmental laws. It can supersede federal government mandates on your state. Anything that Congress could pass, an interstate compact, in my judgment, can do with the hook that it takes congressional consent. Now, congressional consent is the second piece, and there is what I would suggest is the second strategic insight. One of the reasons compacts have not been used in the past to limit the power of the federal government is, unsurprisingly, the federal government has not been all that eager to give up power. But that's where the realization of the unique time we're in right now really kicks in. Because the second insight, the first strategic insight is the legal insight. That to go after Obamacare, you have to have something on the same footing of federal law that has the ability to supersede Obamacare. But the second insight is political, which is if a number of states, and in particular a number of critical states, get together and adopt a compact, and let's take Obamacare as the central example, adopt a compact that says our citizens will not be bound by Obamacare. They will not be subject to the individual mandate. They will not be subject to the restrictions of this statute. And that also includes within it, and any of our citizens may purchase health insurance in any of the other signatory states. You want to talk about two simple but incredibly potent ideas. You get a number of key states together, it goes to Congress. Now, we still got to get Congress to consent, and that's a big deal, but the second insight is a political insight. If if you have a member of Congress who is a self-styled moderate Democrat, who may have even supported Obamacare at one point, it's a very different scenario if that member of Congress is suddenly asked, will you consent to the compact your state has joined? That is the manifestation of the will of the elected legislature of your state. That is the manifestation of the will of the people of your state. Now, all of you know in politics there are carrots and sticks. In terms of a stick, if you're that self-styled moderate Democrat member of Congress who remarkably enough kind of likes your congressional office and would like to stay there, you are going to think very long and very hard before you vote to tell the citizens of your state no. You can't get out of this. I will control you from Washington despite anything you do. I guarantee you this, you won't vote no without a full awareness that the lead campaign ad you're going to face in 2 years is the citizens of our state asked to be freed from the chains of Washington, asked to control their own lives, asked to control their own relationship with their personal doctor, and Congressman so-and-so said no. He believes he knows better than you do how to run your life, how to govern your liberty. That political calculus is very, very different. That, at the end of the day, is the heart of the idea. Now, the interesting thing about the compact, if we are able to adopt an interstate compact and get Congress to consent, I think the first and low-hanging fruit is Obamacare. It's the single thing against which there is the greatest tsunami of opposition. But it doesn't have to stop there. I mean, this is a mechanism that is a potent mechanism once it starts getting used a little bit. Once people realize that there is another avenue to address the calcification of federal law. I mean, right now there's a one-way ratchet. Federal law always seems to increase the size of the federal government and the power of the federal government. And when conservatives get in power, sometimes, hopefully, they slightly slow down the speed of that increase. Sadly, that's about as good as we ever get. A decade ago, I was a campaign staffer on the 2000 Bush campaign. A very cynical friend of mine on the campaign staff proposed a bumper sticker. Republicans, we waste less. And that sadly has been the path. Between this administration that is tightening and expanding and growing the federal government at unprecedented speeds, or more conservative leaders that slightly slow down the incredible accretion of power and authority and spending and taxes. The potent thing about interstate compacts, once the state legislatures start to get into this business, you then get back to exactly what Madison envisioned, which is competing spheres of power and influence fighting each other. Because suddenly the one-way ratchet, you have a force that's trying to turn it the other way. If this successfully takes out Obamacare, that won't be the end of this. Every single onerous federal program that has been put in place through years of expansion in Washington, through years of moneyed interest pushing the centralization of power, is potentially vulnerable to being undone through the vehicle of interstate compacts, through the vehicles of state legislatures standing, binding together and saying, look, we as citizens of the states can govern our own problems. We can embody, Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis referred to federalism and the 50 states as laboratories of democracy.